Okay, I was a little off. I know that comes as a surprise to no one. Exactly. I was hoping somebody was going to say that. All right. So we'll finish up here with that, and we're going to shift over. We've got some things we want to talk to you about what's going on here at Harmony and what kind of direction we're headed into. And but I won't belabor that anymore. We'll have Bill come up first, and he'll share with you. And then we've got some other folks as we continue on this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I've got a question. If you know the answer to this, don't raise your hand. Thank you for saying it. Who knows what year Harmony Church started?
05?
How do you know this? So I mean, it's most people don't know this. We've been around 20 years. 20 years we've been doing this in Harmony in various locations. And I'm going to talk briefly, and by the way, I'm Bill McCune. I'm an elder here at the church. I've been an elder and off and back on. But we're going to talk to you about the future, but I want to touch on the past because there's a very important point I'm going to get to. The church originally started with Joe Murray as our pastor, and we have Mr. and Mrs. Murray in the back, Joe's parents. I just learned this morning that Mr. Murray turns 90 this week.
Wow.
So, I told him he's older than Dirk. The church had gone through, so Joe started the church. It was a thriving church. We were meeting over at we weren't there at that point, but meeting over at the high school, and I think at one point we were over 200 people, 250 on a regular basis. And there was a marital issue, and the pastor unfortunately got divorced, and that's when kind of some chaos started. I won't go into a lot of the chaos, but this church had a fair amount of chaos for a number of years. Had multiple pastors, actually had split and got back together. And I want, if you want to reach out to me, I'll be more than happy to go into any kind of details, but we're here to talk about the future, not the past. And the cool thing is, we had gotten down to, we had a young pastor that we'd gone through a lot of this turmoil and had a lot of troublemakers in the church, and we'll just leave it at that. And we had a young pastor that was cutting his teeth and actually having some conflict with one of the other elders, and stepped down. So we were pastorless. And at that point, I think we dwindled down to 30 or 40 people, if they're on a good, lucky day, showing up. Our monthly giving was our weekly giving was very minimal. And we're trying to hire a pastor. Now, we did have, someone had donated a fairly large sum of money, about $100,000 in the bank. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to get to shepherd this church going forward. And we met with the head of the Greater Orlando Baptist Association, a gentleman by the name of Tom Cheney. It was a Sunday night, I'll never forget this, 2017, up in Lake Nona at Panera Bread on a Sunday night. And we had all our elders, we met with him. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get him to provide a pastor, or some pastors we can at least talk to, right? So, and he looked at our finances, he looked at everything, and he said, I've got bad news and I've got worse news. The bad news is there are no pastors available on the marketplace that I'm aware of. And the worst news is if there were, you couldn't afford it. His advice to us that night was to fold the church. Because listen, you guys have been doing church now for 15 years or 13 years, and you're still meeting at a school. And he goes, fold the church, take the money, give it to another church, and just clearly this isn't of God, and move on. And we left that. We prayed very heavily, and we left that evening very dejected as a group, as you can well imagine. We've been really trying to get this thing going. The very next morning, at bright and early in the morning, I get a phone call at, I think it was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that, from a consultant that we've been using from time to time in the church. And the consultant said, hey, are you guys still looking for someone to preach out in Harmony? And I go, what you got? And he goes, I got this guy. I don't know how good he is. I don't really know much about him. But he just got out of the Navy. He doesn't need a lot of money. He wants to kind of hone his skills. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Hey, give me his number. So they gave his number. I immediately called Danny and had a conversation with him. And as they say, the rest is history. So Danny started coming out and preaching, and ultimately we made him our pastor. And it's a little more to the story, but that's it in a nutshell. But I think the point there's 2 points I want to make. And I thought long and hard how I would say this. I'm just going to say it. We do so much of what we do. God is so ethereal, and oftentimes you pray and wonder if you get answers to prayers, and And I'll tell you, I've had answered prayer a few times, and it always seems to work this way. It's when you're at your lowest point, and God shows up, right? So that that morning that I talked to Danny and whatever, and he became our pastor. I mean, it was clear that God had provided Danny to us. God once, gave us Danny to shepherd and pastor this church. That's the first point. The second point is God wants a church in harmony. All right, it's beyond clear. And honestly, since we hired Danny, we haven't had. Like I said, this church was full of turmoil and strife, and hard-headed people, and we've had none of that. So we've had none of that. I mean, not that we're perfect or haven't had some growing pains and stuff, but God wants a church here, and and Danny's our pastor, shepherd us through it. And I think the overwhelming or the overall theme of today is at a time. And so there's going to be a person and a couple other people talking to you, kind of what we're doing behind the scenes to move Harmony Community Church forward. But I think it's super important to understand that at our lowest point, Danny was delivered to us on our doorstep. So that's all for me. Thank you very much. I'm not sure who's coming. Done. All the heckling.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is John, if I haven't met you yet. And they asked me to talk today about why we believe that now is the right time for us to take the next logical and spiritual step in the life of this church in terms of acquiring some land and a building and moving into a new physical home. So I'm going to talk about 3 key reasons why we believe that it makes sense to move forward with a building. Number 1, that's worship. Number 2, it's community outreach. And number 3, it's nurturing the body of Christ here in this room. So that first piece of worship, I think we even heard Danny this morning talk about this, that the entire reason we are here today on Sunday morning is through a filter of worship, right? It's nice that we get to spend time in community. It's nice that we get to learn something. But first and foremost, this is our opportunity to worship our Creator, right? And it's amazing, right, that when Christ died, the curtain separating the Holy of Holies broke from top to bottom, and that we can worship Him anywhere now, right? We can worship in our cars. We can worship in our yards. We can worship here in this school, in this cafeteria. And I believe that God is a God of order and holiness that deserves a beautiful building to worship Him in, right? When you look back at the directions He gave to the creation of the tabernacle, He didn't say, go grab whatever sticks you can, cobble together something, wear whatever you want, just come hang out. And no, He gave very, very precise instructions to build a beautiful tabernacle that took time and energy and resources from those people, right? And it's, number 1, because He's a God of order and holiness. Number 2, because He is due that respect. And number 3, because when He demands this level of respect, right, it allows us to show with our resources, with our time, with our money, right, with our giftings, that he is our priority and that he is the most important part in our lives. And so I really believe that when we get the opportunity to build something beautiful, right, that is worshipful to him, whether we are physically in that building or not, for generations, that's an amazing, amazing chance that we have today in this room. And the second piece of worship is that we not only can build a physical thing that's worshipful to God, but it would also allow us to worship whenever and however we need or want, right? And today, we are, first of all, very thankful for this space, but we are limited in how and when we worship in our house of worship, right? So if the county or the school decides, right, that they are going to close, whether for a global pandemic, that might happen, or for a hurricane that's about to hit but doesn't actually cause any disruption, we simply don't have a choice, right? We get forced into online service, and we can handle that, and we'll make it through those situations, but when we have a physical building, our own house of worship, we make the rules, right? And that allows us to worship however and whenever we want. So the second piece I talked about was community outreach, and just like worshiping however and whenever we want, a church building gives us the opportunity to reach the community whenever and however we want, right? Let's think about right now, we have all these amazing kids over in the other room. We might want to host vacation Bible school over the summer. And this is an example from this year where this school needed to schedule some maintenance, some construction, couldn't give us dates, and we weren't able to plan a VBS this year because the school wasn't able to plan the time for us to be able to do it. So Vacation Bible School is one of those things that we could do that not only supports our children in this church, but also allows us to extend that invitation to others in the Harmony community or in the surrounding area to come experience God during the summer as a kid. Other community outreach opportunities like Easter egg hunts or Resurrection Sunday events or Good Friday events, right? There are things that we can do here. We do the best that we can in this space, but it is so much grander a scale that we can achieve if we have a space to host these events. Let's go a little bit further. Women's retreats and men's breakfasts and the marriage nights, right? We do the best that we can with what we have, right? And God calls us to steward what we have well. But it's amazing to think about what we could achieve if we had a space to work. Me even ask you to think about your kids and your grandkids that maybe many years from now are looking for an aisle to walk down, to marry the love of their life before their Heavenly Father, right? That might not happen in this cafeteria, but I can guarantee you we could provide that space for whoever wants that down the road in a church that we call home, right? All right, so the third piece is nurturing the body here. Nurturing the individuals that support this Sunday service every single week. We make it happen, right? And I'm so thankful for the individuals that come to set up early every Sunday morning and stay late to tear down. But it is hard work, and it is challenging, and it takes its toll on the hands and the feet of this community, of this congregation. And so if we are able to find a space where we can stay set up, right, where it is permanently available for us to use as a house of worship, then that means that those hands and those feet can focus on their ministries, growing their ministries, bringing people in, training people in those ministries, rather than every week focusing on the needs of laying cables, of carrying speakers and TVs, right? We can take it one step further with that time and build these ministries and experience growth. I just want to ask you that as maybe you're not one of the individuals that's physically setting up before or after. Maybe that's not something that you can offer right now. But I want you to think about how you can be a leg or an arm or a neck or an ear, right, in the body of Christ, supporting those that help make this happen every week. And one way is to support this campaign that Zach is going to come and talk to you about, whether that's through prayer or financially or through whatever skills that you might have that could support the building or the acquisition of some land. So Zach's going to come up and talk about what that might look like practically over the next couple of months and years.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Zach.
Parsons. I'm not much of a public speaker, so bear with me. I couldn't help but notice that John didn't list my favorite reason we need to have our own church. I just want to control the thermostat. That would be great. Anyway, I think we have a slideshow. Were we able to convert it all right? Okay, here we go. Cool. All right, so I'm going to present kind of the how we get there part of this. It may be a little boring, but maybe I'll toss some jokes in along the way. So, welcome to the show. So about a year ago, we can go ahead and move to our next slide. You know, a lot of us, or a lot of the people that I've met over the years, you know, a common recurring theme is like, you know, so how do we actually build a church or buy a building to become our new church? So like after a lot of us realized that we've had similar conversations with just about everybody in the congregation, we decided, well, why don't we just set up some kind of a casual meeting to talk about ideas? And that group of people became the, we just kind of nicknamed ourselves the building committee. You know, there was not really any formal title or anything like that. And that's Jack Loveker, John Castle, Janine Corcoran, Steve Mullins, and myself. And it took about a full year to kind of just get to this point. So initially we were thinking, well, why don't we just try to find some land out there that we can build on? Or maybe we could buy a property that we can convert into a church that we can use. And along the way, we kept running into a similar paradox, or a recurring paradox. It's like, should we raise money to then build or buy a church? Or should we find the property that we want to build and panic and raise the money as quick as possible? So it was always just back and forth, like, well, we can't do this because we don't have the money yet, and we can't raise the money yet because we don't have this to look for, you know, to aim at. So what we came up with is a little bit of a hybrid solution to that problem. And we nicknamed it the 4 pillars of our new home, and that's the next slide. We love our pillars at Harmony. So the way this works is each pillar is going to be its own status bar of the goals that we need to achieve as a church. So in pillar 1, we have attendance goals. Pillar 2, we have giving goals. Pillar 3 is a building fund. You'll see a lot of these details on the program that we get every week. And pillar 4 is construction. Now construction may go from 0 to 100% if we end up just buying a facility. You know, that could theoretically happen. But if we have to actually build and, you know, develop a site, build the walls, do the electrical, you know, all that, that will be a gradual growth. So let's go to the next slide. So this is that first column in attendance. So we crunched some numbers with some financial experts and people in construction, and we came up with it's a pretty specific number, and it's that if we reach a level of 161 in average attendance, theoretically we'll have the weekly giving that we need, the savings that we need, and essentially the ability to have enough cash flow to build a new home while we're currently in this one. Does that make sense? Okay. So in order to reach this goal, we didn't really get as far as listing specific endeavors to get there, but that's where we're coming to the congregation. You know, a lot of you may have better ideas than this building committee ever could. So what we did was, we just said, okay, well, how about we just have one member of this building committee kind of head up, you know, our outreach program. And so right now, we've got Steve Mullins in charge. He's going to be in charge of outreach. So if any of you have any ideas or any, marketing ideas or ways we can outreach to the community, you know, we have, how many housing units do we have within like 5 miles? Like, gosh, 10,000 housing units. And right now we have an average attendance, I think, of 92. And today looks a little better than 92, so our average is already going up a little bit, so that's good. But if you have some ideas, reach out to Steve. He'd be the best guy to go to. All right, we can go to the next slide. All right, the next pillar is about weekly giving. And we're currently at about 62% of that goal. Right now, we're estimating that we would need $8,750 a week. Right now, we're averaging about $5,450. It may actually, after this week, it may be a little higher than that. But, you know, this one, it's a little, you know, it's a little tricky because it's weekly. Some of us give monthly, so we have a really good, say, first month of the week, or first week of the month. Sometimes some of us give weekly, some of us give annual. So it may be a little tricky for us to maintain that average because our giving is a little different. But anyway, that's where we need to be, is $8,750. So next slide. The next one is the building fund, and I think I saw recently, or at least on the program, it looked like it grew by another $600 or so, just in 1 week. So that was nice. That was a nice bump. But our goal is going to be $500,000. So we're actually not as close to that goal as the others. But we haven't really run any active fundraising campaigns yet. And that's where we're also going to the congregation on, you know, some of you may be better fundraisers than you are recruiters. And if you could look into yourself and know where your skill set is. But if you do have interest in helping us achieve this goal, you can reach out to John. He's the guy who just spoke. All right, the next column is construction. So clearly we're at 0%. We don't have a building we're halfway finished with or anything like that. But nonetheless, we probably should have a status bar on it so everybody can be in touch with the progress. And would you know it, my name is tied to that, and now I'm at 0%, so that's not good. But anyway, right now we're currently searching for land. You think that, you know, you drive into town and there's just land everywhere. Why can't we just buy a piece of it? Well, it's not quite that simple. Some of it can be wetlands. Some of it, the owner may want to sell the entire piece, and I don't think we're on the market for 300 acres. It'd be nice to be. But, you know, to go back to that first slide showing all 4 columns. Can we do that? Can we go backwards on the slide? Okay. So, like, our plan is to have this visual right here, probably on like an easel as you walk into the church from now on. That way, on a weekly basis, you have an idea of where we are. So sometimes you'll see the columns go down. Sometimes you'll see the columns go up. But at least you have an idea of the overall health of our campaign. All right, so now we can go to, I think, the second slide. Okay, there we go. So important notes. I already mentioned this a little bit. Everybody has the ability to contribute in their own way. And I have a short little story about it. Hopefully I'm not running over very much. But the person who's probably most responsible for getting our family here is my daughter, Grace. She's sitting there turning red right now. She pestered us because she enjoyed children's church so much that she said, can we go again? Can we go? You know, I'd like to go again this Sunday. And, you know, 1 week, became 2 weeks, became 100 weeks. And so my main point is that everybody can contribute towards these columns, or towards these pillars and goals in their own way. You know, even a 6-year-old girl at the time. Anyway, that's my little story. The next thing is, I thought this was an interesting note. So the better a pillar performs, the less vital the others become. Like theoretically, if we were just on fire raising money for the building fund, it becomes less important for us to have the cash flow to maintain, say, a construction loan on the next facility. So, you know, it's not the end of the world if we underperform in one column, but really just rock and roll on the other. The third note, and this one had us sweating a little bit, was please don't substitute your weekly giving for a contribution to the building fund. Because we still have bills to pay. You know, we still have staff to pay and things like that. We would recommend not getting too overly excited about contributing to a building fund because you know, it'd be great to have a giant savings account, but if we can't pay our bills, that's bigger problems that we have. But the fourth note, and this is probably the most important as well, is patience, patience, patience. Because just the permitting process alone with the county can take 6 months to a year. Likely it skews more towards a year. So even if we had all the money ready to go today to build, it would still probably take up to a year for us to begin construction. So it will take some time, but you know, we can at least raise, we're going to try to do a soft landing where we're going to raise funds as we're trying to progress through the phases of construction. And that's about it. I guess the next slide is about pledging, or pledges. And Steve is going to take over. Thank you.
So they give me the money part of it, so. First of all, I'd like to thank the building committee, and Bill, you did a great job, John, Zach, you guys did a great job up here presenting. I'm glad you guys are doing most of the speaking, not me, that was not my strong suit, but thanks very much. Plus, Janine and Jackson, we started this in April, had our first meeting, and I didn't have a clue. I've never been to a building committee or anything like that, and I was kind of lost. Luckily, you know, Janine, being the number one realtor in Osceola, knows a lot about stuff going on here, and so that helped a lot. Jack's reached out a lot of stuff's been going behind the scenes, reaching out. Jack's been sending letters. If there's any land out there, they've probably gotten a letter from Jack from the church, letting them know, hey, we're looking. And if you go online, there'll be a way to go online. There's also going to be a little pamphlet that Jack and Janine are going to hand out to you today when you leave. Kind of the same information online. There's a QR code I'll get into in a second on here. But Jack sent letters out to all over the place and following up with them. And if you have questions, like I said, on construction, you know, with Zach, if there's any land that you might know of something, we're trying to stay, you know, within a few miles here, within Harmony, we're stay close to Harmony. Maybe it's something we've missed. Maybe you know something we don't. You know, let Janine know, let Jack know. Zach, let any of us know, and you know, trust me, Jack will be on it, and we'll be digging into it, and we'll get it, look into it and see. We've been doing stuff behind the scenes, trying to find stuff, as of money and so forth on there. The reason why the phase 1 of giving, you saw that, it's $500,000. Land out there, what we need is going to be close to $1 million, and and some of it's even going up more lately. So there's a website that we have. If you scan, we can get it up here or not, but on the QR code, if you scan it, later on today it'll be live also on it's live now, but on the home page of our website, there'll be a button to it. I didn't want that part to go live, but if you scan the QR code, that can take you to the website, and this information's in there, some other information, and a way to pledge, and in there it'll say pledge or give. If you click on that, that will take you to click the thing, give on one of those, click on that pledge now. So see if it works in here, our internet signal. Another thing, we have our own building would be nice, if we'd have internet. Okay, right there. Now, right here, it says log in or sign up. If you don't have a login for the church, if you don't give online at all, you can sign up there, and then you can put a pledge in. Just say, it's over we're looking for a 2-year pledge. So just put, I don't care, put 24,000 in, in there. All right, and then it's gonna say create recurring gift. And then you can see, well, how much is it if I do it? It breaks it down weekly, but I want to give monthly. I want to give every 2 weeks. So don't submit that, but it tells you, so that way you kind of play around with the numbers and see. Yeah, submit it. Who's doing it? All right, who's clicking it? That's on you. Better watch it, Quentin. So anyway, so that way you can kind of see, break it down however you give. And no one's going to see that. If you don't hear at the church, no one pays attention to what you give. That's what Danny says every week if we bring up offering, that it's between you and God. So there's no pressure here. We will post where we're at, but no one individually. We have an outside company that keeps track of stuff. If we ever send an email out on a pledge, it's going to go to everyone if you're pledging or not. So don't think, oh, I haven't been given on my pledge. That's between you guys. No one here is going to look at it. No one's going to know. We'll see the number pledged. So we're looking to get 300,000 pledged, and we're about 150, 170. And just to let people know where that building fund came from, and real quick, as Bill mentioned, we had someone that donated some money. And over the years, we had it in savings. And then, like I said, we were getting ready to, I came about a year before Danny got here. And I remember Bill and having a conversation about, the church and the future and so forth. And they said, well, God's going to supply. And he did. We brought Danny on, didn't have money to pay him. So we have to go into savings. And Heather knows this because she deals with a lot of the money. If we have to go into savings and use that money, we will. If we run out, then I guess that's our answer from God. But God kept providing. And through you all, and through keeps on. Every time we need to do something else, God provides. And so God will provide. And so when you go ahead and pledge down there, so that we'll keep track of how much we're looking to get, about $300,000 in pledge over a 2-year time. Things can change. We can get some land, and it might come in cheaper. And that can change things. Everything can change. It's all in God's hands anyways. We're lucky enough He uses us. So, we don't talk much about money in the church. I think Danny, the other week, talked about 5 minutes. I think that's probably double the most I've ever heard him talk about giving there in church in the service. So, but this is something, you'll have these. Jack and Janine has them. As you walk out, make sure everyone grabs one of these. The website's on there and scan. If you're not one to scan or go online and give, and you do want it manually, there is a card here. I'm not asked to do it today. Pray about this, talk to your spouse, do everything with your finances, do whatever God tells you to do. But if you're not wanting to book it online, if you go online and pledge, you can fill out the card, and then one person will know. I will, because I'm the one who's going to input it in on there. But besides that, then no one's going to check to see if you're doing it or not. So that's where we're at on this here. Hopefully one day we'll be coming up here and talking about land. And, as we're taking over a building, there's not too many buildings here in Harmony to take over. So that kind of is a negative there. But God knows what's going on. The church has been here, and I didn't know it was 20 years. I know it's been a while, but I didn't know it was that long. And so we don't believe God is going to have us be the Israelites 40 years in the wilderness. So with that wraps up everything here. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Janine, Bill, Zach, Jack, John, anything that I'm leaving out? All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We're going to still have our benediction, and I'll give Peter a minute to get up here to do the benediction and the doxology. Yes.
Yeah, any questions anyone has, just grab us.
Yeah, questions. We didn't want to have questions here because it'd be all over the place. But if you have questions, reach out to us. Also, I don't know if I think I forgot to put on here, but you can also email info@harmonycommunity.church. And that way we get it to the person that handles that department too. And the names are on here, who does what, plus on the other, on the website, so you can check that out today. All right.
Thank you.
Please stand for the.
One of the things I wanted to say before we go ahead and I've been here for about 7 years.
This is something that we didn't start talking about last year. We've been talking about the entire time. And there have been other times that we have wanted to move forward with this, but we just didn't feel like that the time was right. And it is time now. I mean, there are barriers that keep people from coming to church. There are barriers for us in doing what we did. John made a great point about that. When we do things, a lot of times we have things planned. One of the first things we have to say is, are we going to be able to get to school? Get to school, we can't do it. And so we are fairly limited in the things that we feel like we want to do, and we do feel like this is the right time for this to happen. I heard somebody say one time, I'm not sure about the theology of this, but I do like the overall idea of it. I heard somebody say one time, attempt something so great for God that when it comes to pass, only He can get the credit. So I was kind of like that idea. Like I said, theologically, I might have some issues with that. That's a whole different story. But this is all a part of what you're all involved. And one of the things I want to make sure to re-emphasize, we are in the first half mile of a marathon. So don't get discouraged. It's going to take some time, or maybe not. Who knows? I mean, God can do whatever He wants to, and things could literally change tomorrow when we're doing this. So, and again, I know Steve said something about it. I want to make sure that I say this out loud too. Our building committee, we couldn't have any better folks on our building committee. They are smart, and they are dedicated, and they know what they're doing, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that they have been doing, and they're going to keep on doing. If you have any ideas, let us know. If there's something you hear about, let us know. I'm a blue sky guy. I think we try everything until we can't try it anymore, right? I believe in putting everything on the table until we have to start taking things off the table. No matter how weird or crazy it may sound, let us decide whether it's too weird or too crazy, all right? So we're all a part of this. I hope you will continue to pray about this, and I'm excited about it. I think this is a great first step forward, and we'll be sure to keep you updated as things go along.